Today's video is sponsored by Rick Wilson 6540. Thank you so much for joining our membership. Welcome to the crew. If you guys want to join our membership and support our channel, you can hit the join button down below. But let's get right into today's video. Today we're going to be showing you guys how we're going to design a custom dash for this Chris Craft Capri. Currently on this boat we are doing the deck, the hatches, and we're going to be refurbishing the entire deck on this boat to get it all nice and pristine for the customer. Now this boat's a little bit different than most of the Capri builds we do. I believe I mentioned it in a previous video, but this customer wants this boat to be unique and he's actually customizing it and hot rodding a little bit. Something that I had mentioned earlier is a little bit more of a push that we're seeing with these boats. So we're really excited to share that with you guys, what we're going to be doing on this one. So for example, the typical blonde section that runs down the middle of these Capris, you can see the blonde over there. We're actually going to be doing a dark walnut stain to that, and then the outer portion we're going to be doing the classic stain. So that'll be really nice. We'll see how that turns out. But this video is all about the dash. I'm going to be showing you guys how we're going to build a custom dash, what we're going to do, and it's going to be pretty sweet. So I hope you'll stick around and watch that. Now I drew up some designs that the customer has approved, as in the designs that he wants to do with the interior. So I have a new pattern that I'm going to be doing for the seats. We'll get the upholstery guy to do. We're going to be doing an extendable coffee cup holder idea right here, and then here's the design I drew up for the dash. So you can see that is the point where the dash would start. We'd have the gauges spread out. This would be a removable section, and then this would be solid wood that this bolts into, putting a couple of deck lines across it. So right now we have the old one in place, and we're going to be spreading these gauges out to here and completely changing the entirety of this dash. So to get started, first things first, I should remove the dash out of here and get all of the little nitty-bitty pieces out of the way. We're going to leave the wiring harness in place, and we're going to be leaving the steering column, the steering gear in place, so that I have reference to put the new piece in. Once those are gone and removed, then we can begin designing this initial backdrop piece that the dashboard will fit into, and we can start building that. And if you're familiar with these boats, yes, what I'm doing is unique. It is not something that has been done before in this boat. This is a one-off design, but that's really what we want to see in these. We really want to see people actually putting some enthusiasm and some love into these boats. So that's what we're going to be seeing in this video, is showing you guys what is possible and what can be done, and how these boats can be just like a hot rod if you put a little bit of love into them. So let's get into the video. So it looks like I lost the audio for this part, so I'm just going to pretend I know what I'm saying. Here is some black vinyl. Look at it. Wow, it's so cool and amazing. I'm pointing at it with my fingers. Yes, that's very nice. Again, I have no idea what I said here. I lost a lot of the audio just looking at it in editing. And then I went outside to go dumpster diving for some cardboard. And then I pointed at the cardboard and said something, I'm not sure. And then I jumped into the garbage bin to look for the cardboard. And there it is. There's a nice piece of cardboard, which I then threw on the ground. Still no idea what I'm saying here. Look at all that cardboard. So the whole idea of the cardboard is to get some of the ideas laid out in front of us. So I don't have to be particularly close. I mean, that's completely off from where I want it to be. And that's where the tape comes in handy. I'm essentially going to make a really bare bones layout of what I want. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to make a nice fresh one over there once I have my lines, and then I can make the first template out of cardboard. It's a lot easier to work with. I can cut it, slice it, draw on it. Doesn't really matter. And then I can build the dash this way. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And of course the spot where it's going to be connected is up along here. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple. And yeah, let's get into it. So this is the first sketch that I'm making of the dashboard to see how it'll fit in there. Couple of things I've noticed. First of all, your knee might hit that little, that's supposed to be like a little chest, a little drawer that you can slide open to put things in. Your knee might hit that, so I might have to think about shrinking it. And of course, I might think about shrinking the entirety of it as a whole. But that's the basic principle of what I'm looking for the dash. So at the very least, I have my length, I have that top arc that I can take out, and I have where the steering wheel indent is. So now that I have that, I can play with it. I have another piece of cardboard over there that I can then transfer that information to, and we can build a second prototype of this cardboard one over on the ground over there. Now we are going to get these reupholstered to match the truck that will be pulling this boat, and that's just going to be, again, I made the design on there, slightly different design, different colors, but nevertheless the height of this is relatively going to be the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit in this seat and see where my knees line up with everything. So sitting down here, I don't really have a lot of support. You can see that my knees are not coming anywhere near that, but you see there is a problem with the shifter. So now I have my height, which I've set roughly around here, which gives you some nice room to move this lever without hitting anything. And I've set that height right there. Just going at increments, because of course this is curved. Again, this isn't perfect, I'm just trying to get it close. So what I'll do now is I'm going to pop this out of here. I'm going to cut it on the ground, and then I'm going to make a better one with that piece over there. And yeah, we can see how that will look. So here's the old version of the dash prototype, and here is the new version of the dash prototype. Thinking something along these lines. I might probably space these out a little bit more on the actual piece I make. That doesn't really matter. I'm not really concerned with those right now. All I'm basically concerned with is the size and shape of this dash. And I think it'll look quite nice. The idea is that that would be pinstripes, much like the deck on the boat. We'd have the dark oak in the centerpiece here, and then we'd have the lighter color on the outside. So let's see how that looks under the boat. So there we go. Here's the revised version. That is, of course, an initial draft. Things are going to look a little bit different once we actually go to build this out of wood, but that is the main idea. An important feature of that being that this edge right here, I'm probably going to bring so that there's a little bit of this showing, because this is actually going to be a hollow piece. So I'm going to have a thickness like this running up along this edge here, and on this edge that you won't see because this will be covering it. And this is just going to be a big piece of wood that sits over top of here and blocks that off. So if you need access to the dash, you can just do this and pop the dash out. Now if you think about where the steering wheel is, you're probably holding it on to here. So I reckon that the shift is actually more or less in this vicinity. So that should work pretty good. And then of course the idea down here is that I'm going to have a thick piece of wood, and much like an automotive steering rack, there'll be a bolt on the bottom like this with a little C-clip around it that will hold this in place, and that should be nice and sturdy. I don't know why I don't see that design very much with these. It's typically a little bit more complicated than that with these steering columns, but in reality, as long as the dash is really robust and sturdy, you should be able to bolt it directly to the dash. This particular one's a little different, but I have seen in the past solid metal castings with solid metal rods going up, mounting into here with big massive screws. Pretty nuts. I mean, this should all be just one big solid piece, so that's what I'm going to go for. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing to make sure this actually fits, because one area I could lose a bit of material, is if I shave off, you know, around here. I'm going to be putting in the ceiling panel just to see where that fits lining up with this piece. So I have this ceiling panel installed and this one, and you can see it's sitting in there quite nice. It's a little bit different than I initially thought, and you can see it's really tight right there, and then on this side it's a little bit scrunched up. So I will have to shift this a little bit to make it nice and center, but I might even take a little bit off of it. So I drew just a rough line. I might take this much off so it's not contacting the ceiling panel. That might look nice, just to have some extra room back there, but that will be kind of a question Once I pull this dash out of here, I'm gonna reshape it. But before we do that, I was looking at the cup holder design because this customer wants to have cup holders in the dashboard area. Now, I'm assuming he doesn't want them visible. We talked to him a little bit about that. So a couple of options, if you look back at my drawing, the one that I really prefer, just for the aesthetics of it, is this style right here. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the entire design and the idea of where I'm getting some of this inspiration from is coming from the truck that pulls this boat. So this extra little line here, this isolated section, the little drawer, the styling, all of that was taken from the idea of that truck. There's little stylistic choices like that. So I'd like to incorporate this into the dashboard. Now, I've already cut this piece out, but there's a little trick you can use to actually add additional pieces of cardboard to something if you've cut them. And this is just going to show you why cardboard is the best thing to work with when you're drafting something. So all you need is the additional piece that you want to put on, and then 2 bamboo skewers. And there we go, that's the first design of what I was thinking of for the pull-out drawer. So this would all be one piece of wood, and then you would have the drawer sitting in here that you would pull out and have little cup holders hanging off of it. Now, of course, it varies from this design a little bit. It's a little bit shorter, not as long, and that comes down to the shifter here. So this is the design with the shifter in place. The other option too is that we can design a new shift rod, make a new one, or even modify this one so that it comes back and up, kind of like an old school hot rod shifter, and that would give us a lot more movement on this piece, and I could actually extend this to make it a little bit longer to kind of blend in a little bit. But that's what that looks like right now. There we go, I got the size perfect. We got some nice clearance here in between the dash panel and the ceiling panel. I think that looks really good. A little bit of room there, and now we can take this out of here and start templating it out and actually building the real dash over in the next bay. So here I have the basic design laid out on that piece of wood here. I have the edges nice and round to where I want them, and I'm just leaving some extra material on there just in case I want to do a little design down on the bottom. But that being said, this fits really fantastic into that little area right there, and I will show you guys that in a second. But what I've done is I've used every hot rodder and fabricator's favorite tool, the compass, and I've essentially created circles, to which I've then doubled them up as so that I have a very smooth and clean intersection right here, and everything is laid out perfectly. And you can see that I've done that for the bottom as well. That gives me the dead middle center of what I'm doing here, and I have all of these spots laid out. So what I'll do is these are actually going to be where I put the gauges, and then I'll have a little bit of an extra space right here, and then of course I'll have my nice line design down along this edge. So that being said, the next thing I'm going to do before I go too far is I'm going to put some paper down, and I'll be able to see the Sharpie line through the paper. I'm going to make a template for this piece here, and then I'm going to put it on top of it so we can get a nice visual and we can carry on in building the stack. go. There's that piece cut out. That's going to be the removable gauge cluster. So the idea is that this is permanent. I'm going to permanently install it into the dash once this is all done. I don't want this to be easily removed. And then this portion will be very easily removed. So you can pull this out and access the gauges behind and the wiring behind. That's one thing that is really beneficial when working on these boats, is if I can actually get the gauge cluster forward and out to work on it rather than having to go up underneath the boat and lay on my back. If you've worked on these before, you know that laying on your back is not very enjoyable working the electrical in these boats. So I like to always make these removable clusters just to make it easy for the next guy. Now, of course, it's not going to be sticking up this much. I'm going to plane it down, get it nice and sanded, but I want to make sure I'm planing it down just enough that the gauges sit in there really pretty. So as for where the gauges are going to go, I think they look pretty nice spaced out about this far apart. And then of course here's my nice area where I'm going to have that deck line in it. So let's see how that looks. So I have the design here for the drawer section. I tried to make sure that it jived with the other flowing parts of the dash. You can see it kind of flows together quite nicely, and this is going to be the drawer. So the idea is that this little part will pull out, and you'll have behind it, you'll have your cup holders, and then you'll also have a little area for storage like keys, phones, wallets, all that stuff. So that'll sit right about here. And then I went and picked up some hinges, which I forgot to record at the store here. Now, something to think about is this dash when it's in the boat. If you were to accelerate really heavy and you have really nice hinges, you can expect the dash to come flying out at you. The drawer to come flying out at you. So I made sure I got these ones, which they have this feature where, I'm sure you've seen these before, you hit it really hard or kind of push the drawer shut, and it auto closes. That actually stops it from extending out when it's not supposed to, so that'll keep it more or less locked in place. And of course it'll add like a really nice closing feature to it. Tolerances are gonna be pretty close on this one, but we're gonna make a really nice product. I already have a bit of the box going for the drawer. So I have my pieces cut and set up here. So the idea, of course, is I'll take this front face, we're going to put it on the front here like that, and then we'll build another stepped area right here that'll have the cup holder holes installed. And then we have some nice stainless steel inserts that are coming that I'll put inside of that area. I'm not going to cut it till I get them. That's a mistake I've made many times before. Don't proceed without reference. Always make sure that you actually have the product before you start mapping out the hole for it, because I've done that a couple of times and put myself in a bit of a tricky spot. So that's the drawer system right there. And then you can see these are nice 12-inch hinges. These will go right alongside here. And then once this is built, I can then, using this dimension as well, create the box for it that will sit on the back of the dash. So we have the drawer built here. You can see I have the holes marked for when I get the cup holders, and then this is the action on the drawer. is really nice, and it has that slow close feature, which will prevent it from opening when you're driving the boat around in the water and there's rough water. Kind of prevents it from opening and helps it from slamming shut. But yeah, that's essentially it. I'm going to get this cleaned up, get a couple of lines nice on it, make sure everything's ready to go. And here is going to be felt, so you can put your phone, wallet, keys, etc. But we're going to try to get this mounted up on the dash now, and let's see how it looks. Here it is, installed into the dash. I'm going to be trimming this in a little bit, but essentially all I did is put a support running down to the outer box component, and then we have one fastener here and one fastener here, which we're going to be putting in plugs and staining varnishing over that. You won't even notice that there is a fastener there, which means getting this out, removing it, is going to require you to pull a plug out, but it should be pretty good though. It's going to be completely invisible, very clean. So you have your storage right here. Nothing gets lost while you're boating around. You can put in your phone, you can put in your keys, your wallet, whatever. And then what I'm going to be doing is right about at this spot here, you can see where it closes. I'm going to have to design some sort of mechanism to keep it, you know, relatively locked in place so that you can have your cup holders in this position. What that's going to look like, I'm not entirely sure. It could be one of those roller ball little door lock things that I put in here that clicks, or perhaps I put a ball detent in. Whatever the case is, that is going to be the next thing that I'm going to be doing here. And of course, once these arrive, I can put these in. We can see how that looks. Now, one thing to keep in mind, the bottom is open, because if we're going to be having those inserts sticking down, they need to be able to, you know, stick down a little bit. And then of course, the shifter has to be modified in order for this to work. So we're going to have to be changing how this boat is shifted, and considering we're putting a new engine and transmission into it anyways, it presents a good opportunity to change around how that works. So there we go. There's the drawer and the dash put in place. I got a lot of little details and little things I have to work out with it, but you can see it's got some pull to it, so it's not just going to swing open when you're in the rough water or anything like that. And if you're wondering before why that center section dash part is removable, if you actually look at where this drawer is in relation to the gauges, you would not be able to work on them very easily. You could definitely get up there, but it'd be a little bit difficult. And seeing as that is going to be semi-permanent, it's really important that you have access to the gauges in an easy way. So having this entire panel be removable makes it super easy to work on the gauges, or clear up any issues with the drawer. I don't know that there would be any. Clear up any issues in there, gives you lots of access to everything. And of course it just adds more detail to the dash. But based off of the drawing that I made, and then what we actually have, I think we got pretty close to it. I did add an extra little design right here, which I really like. I think this is coming along really nicely. Okay, I retract my earlier statement. You can't access the gauges, you just have to open the drawer. Look at that, we're learning together. But I mean, still, I have to make the removable dash. I mean, come on, that's awesome. It's definitely going in still. Thank you everyone for watching the video today. Really appreciate it. The next video we're going to do on this one, I'm going to be designing that center cluster, getting that made up, putting the lines into the edges, cleaning it, rounding it up. I'm going to try to finish it next video, and we can get a look at what it'll look like when it's all complete. It's going to be pretty sweet. I'm going to put the steering column in place as well and get that all dialed in. The only thing you probably won't see in the series is the final version of it, which I will put in a later video. The reason being, the deck has to be installed and ready to be stained and varnished, and so do the sides of the boat. If I mix up stain and varnish and I do that dash right now, there's no telling if it will be exactly the same as the rest of the boat, so it's really important you do it all in one go. So we're probably not going to see that stained and varnished right away, but we will get to a point where it is complete and ready to be permanently installed. Well, I mean, ready to be stained and varnished, but but again, thank you guys for watching the video today. We really appreciate it. If you liked the video, you learned something about it, please make sure you subscribe, drop a comment. We really appreciate the support. Thank you guys for all the engagement on our last video with the gravette restoration. If you haven't seen it, you can click right here and watch it. I gotta say personally, it is my favorite video, and I gotta say probably the best video we've put out on the channel so far. Really excited about that one. So we're gonna try to be doing more videos like that in the future. Of course, it takes quite a long time to film something like that, so don't expect a new one tomorrow, but there will be one coming out in the future. So that being said, take care, have a good rest of your day. See ya.